Welcome to TeamChild's first ever recruitment webinar. So we might fumble a little bit, y'all, but we'll get through it. My name is Jazzmine. My pronouns are she, her, she and her. I'm connected to TeamChild because I was a client for many years. I haven't been a client for, I'm 24, so 24 minus in between the 18. I'm really excited today because I'll be your moderator. And this is a really exciting time for TeamChild. We have several attorney positions in various areas and various offices. With this webinar today, we wanted to provide you the space to answer some questions about working at TeamChild and have people who actually work there kind of share their experience and what it's really like. So I'm going to turn it over to Raina and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Raina Rololazo. My pronouns are she, her, and my position within TeamChild is Community Engagement and Anti-Racism Director. I've held several positions within the organizations over the 6 years that I've been with the organization, and this is my most recent title and position that was organized by the staff of color within the organization. So very excited to have you here. I wanted to give a little bit of context as to this moment of TeamChild. As many of you might have already heard, we're in a huge moment of transition and also growth. And one of those huge transitions is our executive director, Annie Lee, of 20 years, leaving at the end of this year, really to rest and rejuvenate after her 20 plus years of work with the organization, and just to take a breath as she moves on to her next big thing. And also because it's a great time for new leadership and to make space for that new leadership. And so in this transition process, the staff members and board members are working very collaboratively to recruit and hire our new executive director. And we also have the support of a recruitment firm to do that. So another big source of transitions is that we're growing our team. So for example, we've created for the first time ever a policy team of 2 folks. We're also growing some of our other teams, including the Spokane team is adding a staff attorney. The JR team is adding a managing attorney. And so that has led to, movement within the organization and also open positions. And also folks have retired, moved on from the organization for different reasons. So this is a time of, holding on to who we've been, visioning for who we want to be, being very driven by our values. We're a very values-driven organization, and we're really wanting to welcome in new folks who want to do work for youth, be very driven by our anti-racism values, and to navigate this transition with us. And so I wanted to quickly list the positions that are open, which you can learn more about them on our website to learn how to apply and more about the positions. But the positions that are open right now are JR staff attorney, Spokane staff attorney, King County managing attorney, as well as a Yakima managing attorney or staff attorney position. So the Yakima team is going to be hiring for one of those positions. Again, if you want to learn more, please visit our website at teamchild.org. And right now I'm going to just go ahead and turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves with their names, pronouns, their positions within the organization, as well as how long they've been with the organization. And we like to popcorn style, so I'm going to turn it over to, I'll turn it over to Kim first, and then Kim will popcorn to the next person. And I did want to let you know, we're going to reserve the last 15 minutes or so for your participant questions. So please feel free to send me a chat to the host and we'll make some space for that in the last 15 minutes.
Hi, everyone. I am Kim Williams. I am the managing attorney in the Pierce County office. I've been with TeamChild for 4.5 years, and I use she, her pronouns. And I will popcorn it to Teresa, who's next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Teresa Harmon. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a staff attorney in the Yakima office, and I started in November, so almost a year now, which is crazy. Feels like it's gone by quickly. And I will popcorn to Portia.
I am Portia Phelps. I am the King County office with the King team. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I've been with TeamChild for coming up on 4 years in January, and I'm going to popcorn it to Dan.
Hi, I'm Dan Opart. My pronouns are he or they, and I am the managing attorney in our Spokane office. And I've been here for 8 years. And yeah, I agree, Portia. Sarah, I'll popcorn to you.
I'm Sarah Zier, she, her pronouns, and I'm currently the acting director of legal services at TeamChild. And I'm also partially representing the Juvenile Rehabilitation and Reentry, or the JR project at TeamChild, because I've been working closely with that team, but I work with all the program teams at TeamChild, and I've been with TeamChild now for 10 years. But I am out of the Tacoma Pierce County office, which is where I've primarily been this whole time. Back to Jazzmine.
Well, yay. So I'm going to ask all of the panelists a few questions that have already been pre-submitted. And they can just popcorn style answer them. I like that. I like that idea. Okay, so I'll start with Kim. What does your typical workday look like?
So I feel like I get this question all the time. And it's kind of hard to answer because there isn't really a typical work day. I feel like every day is very different. I've definitely worked lawyer jobs where every day is pretty much the same, like you know what your schedule is going to be every day, every week. But at TeamChild, it's a variety of things. I think that's what I love about it. I never know what I'm going to do. But keeping my calendar up to date is what really keeps me on track, because it lets me know, okay, what am I doing today? So like, for example, today I started off this morning in Zoom court, and then bounced from several meetings. And in between that, I received new referrals from community partners. I constantly get text messages throughout the day from clients and phone calls. And I can be meeting a client at a Starbucks, at McDonald's. Those seem to be my favorite spots to meet with clients, or at school, wherever is most convenient for clients. But yeah, my days are never the same. I never know what issue someone's going to come up with to me with. And it's always surprising, like, oh, that's a new issue I haven't thought of or heard of to tackle. And so yeah, my days are filled with lots of variety, and I will popcorn it to Dan to see what it's like in Spokane.
Yeah, so I would say that the most of my experience has been before COVID, and I would say that during that time, our days were often just running from one meeting to the next with different clients, either at schools or in juvenile detention, and court connected to juvenile detention, and the youth shelter and our young adult shelter here. So much of the days back then was just going to all those places to meet with our clients. It's a little different right now, in that we're finding different ways to connect with our clients at times, and our clients are just in different places than they have been in the past. So I'd say that it's a little different, but the regular day would be in all sorts of places, and trying to get some writing and telephone calls in between all those other meeting with our clients throughout the day. And all popcorn to Teresa.
Yeah, I would echo what Dan and Kim say. I don't think that any day usually looks like, but it is a lot of hopping around. Yakima County's fairly spread out. So I'm often driving from one place to another. So Sunnyside is like 45 minutes. So, I'll drive around for client meetings and a lot of Zoom meetings, but I would say that we have a lot of different types of cases. So I switch from one thing to another quite a bit, which I like a lot. But yeah, keeps you guessing, keeps you on your toes every day. Sarah?
Yeah, without repeating, because everything everyone said resonates with me. For the JR work, the difference with that project specifically is that our clients are often incarcerated in juvenile rehabilitation facilities. And so it's been slower because of COVID, but it does involve a lot of in-person visits to institutions and facilities and connecting with young people there. So again, sort of the travel component, but to very specific places to meet with young people who are incarcerated around the state. And increasingly part of the growth that Rena was mentioning in the intro is around reentry work. And so we are expanding our reentry work for youth who are leaving incarceration from JR institutions to, and that'll be statewide work. So it's a little bit different than just in the 4 counties we serve, but we'll be operating a little bit as regional hubs for youth who are re-entering from periods of incarceration. So that work is growing and expanding, and it's pretty exciting to be fielding calls from youth who need assistance in additional counties. So we're adapting and growing as we do that. And then in my specific role, and I just want to highlight this because it's, I think something we try to provide a lot of support for folks at TeamChild in their work. And so in my role, I get to kind of bounce around between program teams and read a lot of draft pleadings. Again, we're not currently hiring for Director of Legal Services, but the interface and the collaboration between the offices is also really strong. So a lot of what I'll be doing when folks do it independently without me too, but is suggesting like, oh, hey, you're filing something in Yakima that I just talked to somebody about in King County. You all should connect and support each other through that. So trying to make these connections and ensure that people have support amongst each other and from me and then also others outside of the community where we know there's expertise so that there's support in doing what is often novel and dynamic work. Portia?
Thank you, Sarah. For King County and a lot of the offices, like they do definitely ping around from court to meeting with youth. So all of everything that they shared is what we do on a daily basis. But to kind of just give a picture of what some of those meetings may consist of, it's not just meeting with the youth. There's oftentimes meetings with schools and staff at the schools making arrangements and trying to advocate for the youth. So there's a lot of those meetings that take place. There's meetings where they may participate in RAP teams where they're helping with youth that have mental health crisis and addressing housing issues. There's also a lot of stuff that's done, the internal work within the organization. So there's meetings that we have and the work that we're doing in strengthening the organization and its anti-racism principles and making sure that that flows fluidly through the organization and the work that we're doing. So there's those meetings. There's also community meetings and meeting with our community partners and strategizing and hearing about what's taking place in the community. So we know where to focus our work at. So just to kind of give you an idea of what some of those meetings that they're referring to when they're bouncing from meeting to meeting. As the King team, we have a lot of the work that's also going on, just all of those things that have been previously mentioned. For me, a day in the life, just for me, is really navigating those meetings and making sure that not just that my team is available to be at those meetings, but if my team is not available, then I may have to cover and be in participating with those meetings, as well as doing our screening and intake and making decisions on what youth we're going to be able to accept, and then getting those youth connected to other resources at times. So really just playing a connector for the teams in my specific role. I'm going to go ahead and bounce it back to Jazzmine.
Okay, thank you. Oh, so I got another question. Sorry. I should have read this first. I knew I wasn't going to be prepared. I said I was, but okay, my next question. What is your favorite thing about working at TeamChild? I'm going to start with Portia this time.
That is a really loaded question. Because there's a lot of things that I love about working with TeamChild. I mean, first and foremost, when you work with an organization that is this small, you got to love the people that you work with. And so I would say that's first and foremost. Is I have gained some of my dearest friends from this organization. They have really become family to me. My kids they refer to them as aunties and uncles. So they've become family. The second thing that I love most about the work is the youth that we come in contact with. So many times youth are, especially the youth that we work with, are considered to be troubled and have all of these other things. But as we see with Jazzmine, like they are amazing people, given the right support in the right situations. And their minds are just fully loaded with so much that you can't help but really feed off of the youth that you work with. So I would say that that's the second part that I really love about the work. And the third is the community, like really getting to know the people in my community, and knowing who I'm supporting and who I'm working with and what's taking place and how our work can be a positive impact for the community. So for me, those are the three things that I really love about the organization. So that would be me. I'm going to ping it to Dan this time.
Thanks, Portia. I would agree that there are many things I love about working at TeamChild, but to come up with the thing I love most, it is our clients and really the flexibility that we have to work with a client on one goal, but then another goal might come up, and that often leads to, I think, longer relationships with clients than a lot of attorneys are able to have. And I see Jazzmine pointing at her, but again, just that Jazzmine as a face of it that you can see right now, that Jazzmine was already known to this office 8 years ago when I started, and we still have this relationship with her, and seeing her grow into where she is now. That's not a rare, she's not a rare example. We have those relationships with clients for quite a while, and to see our clients grow and thrive during that time, there's just something about it that I really cherish and think is unique to our work. I will ping to Kim.
I agree with everything that everyone has said. The relationships are huge and what I enjoy the most with the clients and with my coworkers. Definitely have long-lasting relationships with my clients. And I also enjoy like the work that we're able to do, especially knowing that there aren't a lot of organizations that really tackle the issues that we do. We often like to prioritize cases where we're like, well, we know no one else is going to do this. So can we step in for this young person? And so I love being able to do that. And I love the way that we collaborate within the organization and how we try to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. It's really rare to have that as a place of employment, that everyone is really valued as a human, as an individual. And when people say bring your full self, that they actually mean that. I think that's something that's often used, but it's not really meant, and it's really hard to do. But I love that we are really working hard to try to do that and really be supportive of each other. And I will popcorn it to Sarah.
It's hard. I just want to echo everything. So I'm going to say something that I wouldn't have said as my top choice, but just to like keep saying good things about TeamChild. I agree. I mean, Kim, I was going to say the collaboration thing and what it's like to build an internal structure where there's really collaborative decision making. But the relationships is top and then collaboration from that. But I would say from like an intellectual side, again, this wouldn't have been my top choice, but since I'm filling in behind folks, I think the opportunity to learn and stretch as an attorney has also been what's kept me at TeamChild for 10 years. So because I'm not doing the same thing every day, and because we're pushing on the policy side to actually change the law and the systems at the same time that we're doing the individual cases, the law has changed really dramatically, including in ways that we've impacted and also that other advocates that we've collaborated with have over the years. And so there's always something new that we're learning to do and to stretch ourselves, or when a client comes to us with something, a legal issue area, we get in contact with folks who know about it. And, you know, if they can't take the case or do it well, then we're trying to figure out how to do it. And so I'm constantly sort of stretched to think about how we can solve problems in a way that keeps me very intellectually engaged with the work. So again, the relationships are primary to that, I think, but also just from like an intellectual perspective, I've always had room to grow and pursue different things in my work here. Teresa?
Man, guys, covered all the bases I was planning to cover. But I'll echo again. I think definitely the relationships are key. I love that I can spend time with the youth in a way where I actually get to know them as people. I'm not like, yeah, here I am for this one thing, bye, have a good life. It's like, as things come up, I can talk with them. I know what their interests are, like, and I feel like I really value that window into someone's life and that ability to have a relationship that most attorneys don't have with their clients. And I came into this job when it was, you know, COVID, everything's on Zoom, and people across offices reached out to me and were welcoming. And I feel like they do live out the value of treating their staff holistically. So I echo that. And I think that I've really felt that even being far away in Yakima from some of the other offices, that we are treated as people that are supported and cared about in the office. So that's what I got. Jazzmine?
Well, I don't work for TeamChild, but I think I love that you guys popcorn. I just think that's great. So another question for you guys is, what do you find challenging about the work? And I'm going to start with Sarah.
For me, I think the challenging part of the work is just how enormous the problems are. So we're representing young people within systems that are, you know, the embodiment of institutional racism that were designed for very problematic reasons to incarcerate and exclude and separate families. And we are, and you know, all of that is still very much alive, and we're helping young people navigate these enormous problems in their sort of individual iterations. And it is, I know we're going to get to the chat questions, but some folks have talked about sort of secondary trauma and pieces like that. I think just the reality of being up against the momentum of these systems can feel enormous and impossible some days. I think it's, you know, it's balanced by the support we have for each other and our clients, but I think the reality of that, you know, that's just challenging every day to come to work and try to tackle in small and big ways the reality of these systems. So, and then just, you know, some of the things and the reasons that we're here today, there's just a lot of change and transition going on, which again, you know, these are great opportunities and are exciting, but there's a lot of work to do right now and not always enough hours to fit it in. So it's that managing that balance is probably the biggest challenge I have. It's hard to go to sleep at night sometimes knowing what's left to do and the impact the systems are having on my clients. Let's see, who do I want to popcorn to? Kim.
I knew you were picking me. No. I would say for me, definitely disconnecting from work, as Sarah said, like going to bed, thinking about it, waking up, thinking about it. And, as we talk about the relationships that we build with clients and just having the privilege to really be a part of their lives, we also, are very aware of the many things that they're up against. And it's hard to see people that you care about really going through it, and it's just not fair. And so that can be very hard, and really learning how to navigate that and how to separate yourself from the work and take care of yourself is really key to avoiding burnout. And I will popcorn it to Teresa.
Yeah, I think one thing that's been a little bit challenging about my position in the Yakima office is that sometimes it can feel a little bit separate from some of the other offices, just because geographically it is. And so I really have to be intentional about seeking out support for questions that I have as they arise. And I do feel like people are responsive when I am, but I kind of have to say, okay, I need help with this, and reach out when I need that. And then also in Yakima, the access to technology is not really there, and there's fewer resources. So sometimes there's just not a lot of housing. That's one thing. So that's a problem that I can't really create housing. So sometimes it can be really frustrating to know that there are things that should be happening, but they won't. And so I have to also navigate that secondary trauma and be able to be there to listen and then also take care of myself. So, yeah. Dan.
I'm not gonna pull a Sarah and go with a backup answer. It's just the truth. The secondary trauma is the hardest part, biggest challenge of working at TeamChild to me. These are really oppressive systems that we hear about from our clients' stories before we meet them, and oftentimes during the course of those long relationships that I mentioned. So I guess I would go more into the answer of the question of how we try to deal with that, and we do value each other, as people have mentioned, and we value wellness. We invest in each other's wellness through TeamChild. We have a benefit that is $1,000 per year for wellness, and I think that investment is just often helpful to remind ourselves to remember our wellness, and that has been something that's been valuable to me as I have struggled with secondary trauma over the years, and we do look out for each other on top of that, and so I think that those I think everyone has different ways of actually personally dealing with the secondary trauma, but the fact that we value each other and each other's wellness is something that is at the top of it as we work with each other to help each other out in that secondary trauma. Portia.
I love the way you had a question mark at the end of that. It's all good. It's all good. That secondary trauma is a major thing. For some of us that have an added component to the work, just to build off of where Dan is going with it, TeamChild values lived experience. And for some of us that have lived experience, that secondary trauma can actually be triggering. And so I would say that for me, that is the hardest part of the work, especially as someone that does our intakes, and someone that hears what the youth are going through firsthand from the youth, their family member, the caseworker. But oftentimes it's when I talk directly to the youth, that I find it to be that it's the triggering part of it. And it's nice to know that in those moments when I have those difficult times and I have those conversations, and they're tough conversations, that the flexibility in the work that we do allows me to be like, you know what, I gotta go. I can't handle this. Like, this was just too much today. And I don't feel pressured to stay. I don't feel pressured to grin and bear it. It's embraced. It is take the time that you need, gather yourself, especially for us in Seattle. There's been a lot of things that have happened around the city, especially during the summer months, to where we've lost a few of our youth. And when you get to know them on a personal level, that is very difficult. And so there are times where we need to take that time to regroup, regather ourselves, to help prevent ourselves from having that burnout. So for me, it's that part of not just the secondary trauma, but the triggers that it also contributes to, but also it makes it bearable because of the support that I get from the organization and the people that I work with. Jazzmine?
Well, just so you guys all know, as youth all appreciate you guys. So that actually was good for me to hear. Another question, because it looks like you're still doing good on time, would be looking ahead. What are you guys most excited for? And I'm going to start with Dan. He hasn't started yet.
I am most excited for us to really go towards dismantling these oppressive systems that we keep talking about. We have directly represented clients within them for our entire existence, and we've talked about their racism and their ableism and their oppression, and we've talked about the need for dismantling them. But I think we are really going in a direction that we are going to act on that mission, and that is going to be central in all the work we do as we're accountable to our clients and our communities. I'm excited for that because otherwise we just keep talking about how oppressive they are to our clients, our communities, and even as we talk about the secondary trauma to us. So I'm really excited for that direction. I think we have the staff who all value it, and I'm excited for more staff who value that. And I'm really excited about that. And I'll popcorn to Portia without a question mark.
I love it with the question mark because you never know what I'm going to say. I am, what am I excited about? I'm excited about not just what Dan mentioned in, taking down these oppressive systems, but I'm excited about the growth that the organization is going through and what that means for us and the potential. I'm excited to see what new ideas and approaches new members bring to the organization. For the King team, we're looking for a new managing attorney. So I'm excited to see what vision someone brings to our team to help our team continue to grow and develop as a team, as well as the way in which we impact our community and working with the youth. So I'm excited to see what that does for us as a team and as an organization. So for me, it's really about the newcomers and what they can bring to the organization and how we can continue to push this anti-racism and anti-oppressive systems to the brink. So that's where I'm at. And I'm going to ping it to Kim.
Well, I agree with all that's been said. I'm excited about digging deeper into the work. I'm excited just about being able to be creative within the work and think of new ideas and new ways to do things. I'm excited about expanding how we reach young people and how we have more young people involved in the actual work. So lots of things that I'm excited about. And I will popcorn it to Teresa.
Well, for the Yakima team in particular, I am really excited for us to grow the team and for us to have another person in the office. Historically, we've had a bit of a gap, so we are really trying to grow here and become more integrated in the community, and just kind of build on what we have. So I'm excited to see who comes in and what we can do with the TeamChild Yakima office. Sarah.
I'm going to do my thing where I don't pick the thing I'm most excited about, but where I pick my backup answer. I just to add perspective, I think Rena talked about the executive director transition at the beginning, and none of this is to say, I think every day about how much the organization and I'm going to miss Annie. But I'm pretty excited about the opportunity that's creating for leadership within TeamChild and to really step forward like at all levels, regardless of sort of position in like hierarchical leadership. But what about it really looks like at TeamChild to continue to live out and build upon collaborative decision making and have a new executive director to be one of the leaders within that, and what that means for sort of solidifying. I think it's a pretty exciting time in terms of moving forward and several of our strategies on the impacts to have the impacts that Dan and Portia and others are talking about. So using policy strategies, using community engagement and youth leadership strategies, as well as our individual case work and what it means to, to achieve impact goals through individual legal aid cases. So anyway, looking forward to and excited about a lot of these transitions and what that means for moving forward and having these broad impacts.
I think this means, Jazzmine, that is there time now for all the audience questions?
I was thinking so. I was like, does that mean it's back to me? Because I think my next thing on here says now I'm going to turn it over to Raina to ask questions in the chat. So yeah.
We're 5 minutes ahead of schedule, y'all.
Look at me. See, and y'all thought I was going to be late and I got us ahead of schedule. This might be my next gig.
That's the goal at some point in your career. And in our TeamChild evolution, as we talked about. So we'll try our best to get through as many of these awesome questions as possible, and any that we don't get through, we'll work to bring together like a cohesive response. And as we share out the recording to this webinar, we will include written responses to any of the questions that we are not able to talk through today. So the first question I'll go to, and hopefully the panelists have gotten to see it in the chat, so none of this is super surprising, but I'll just start with probably a pretty basic question that a lot of people want to know, which is, what experience level are you looking for in these positions? Is it open to recent grads, or are you looking for more seasoned attorneys? So anybody can answer. Maybe we'll go ahead and I'll ask for Teresa. Are you willing to start that off?
Yeah, well, I know in the Yakima office, we're hiring for just one position, but for a staff attorney or a managing attorney position. And we're doing that intentionally because we want the right person and the right fit. So I think all experience levels are certainly welcomed, and we don't want experience to inhibit someone from applying for one or both positions.
I'll say the Spokane hiring team is open to recent grads and all sorts of experienced attorneys as well.
The JR team is, there's one staff attorney position posted, but we're hiring 2 staff attorneys for that project. And I think the team is looking for a mix of experience. So yes, I would say there's an opening for a new law grad and also someone with more experience. I think the team is looking to round out and have a range of experience within the team members. But since there's 2 staff attorney positions available, it's multiple, looking for different levels of experience. So all are welcome and encouraged to apply.
For the King team, we are looking for a managing attorney. And so with that, we are looking for someone that has a little more expertise level when it comes to legal aid and civil law understanding. So it would be a little bit higher experience than some of the other offices are looking for, because our hope is that they would be able to help with development of the current staff attorney that are there. So that's what the King team is looking for.
Thank you all. So another question from participants is, are we engaged in restorative justice work in any way? I believe that there are a couple different partnerships and sort of that we've had in the various offices in the local effort. So is anybody able to speak to those?
Well, in Spokane, we were part of the foundation and continuing of the Every Student Counts Alliance, which has really pushed for restorative practices within Spokane public schools rather than exclusionary discipline or arrests or referrals to juvenile court from school behavior. And that was out of the data 5 years ago showing that Spokane really did both of that a lot, both exclusionary discipline and arrests from school in extremely high numbers. And those extremely high numbers were disproportionately impacting students of color and students with disabilities. And that work and collaborating with the school district to change their practice and policies have substantially reduced both of suspensions, expulsions, and arrests from schools, including Spokane Public Schools removing its own police force from schools. So that I think has it's been long work over the last 5 years, but has had a lot of impact in Spokane Public Schools, which at the time we started was the 2nd largest school district in the state. I think it's 4th or 5th now.
I think those examples are the ones more, I don't know, Portia, if you want to talk at all about King County work specifically, but I think that we have represented youth going through restorative justice processes and participated in that way. I think restorative justice, in my experience, is a word I get nervous about when I hear increasingly, because there are restorative justice systems that are done with a lot of fidelity to what that means. And it's also a term now that's thrown around in a lot of school districts as, oh, we have a restorative process, but there's not really a process. And so I always am unsure what that means. And so I think we do a lot of unpacking of trying to understand. I think in the broader sense, we have a history of supporting and trying in a similar way as Dan talked about in a lot of geographic spaces and statewide of trying to move towards systems that are more restorative instead of punitive. So an example is, legislatively trying to get schools to do re-engagement meetings to allow kids back into school or things like that involve multiple players. It's not exactly called restorative. It's not legislating restorative justice, but talking about pathways to re-engagement that are responsive to youth and family needs and ensuring. And I think we take a restorative approach in our work, whether we're working with school systems, child welfare systems and try to center what youth need to be successful and to move away from criminal court. So anyway, it's hard to answer that question. I'm not trying to avoid it, but I think we don't have a formal restorative justice program that we operate or where we are like a party to it, but we have consistently pushed other systems to have restorative practices and advocated for individual clients on the daily to be treated in a restorative way and not punitively.
Before we move on, are there any other local efforts, whether we're involved in them or not, that you want to call out just for the audience to be aware of? Happy to move on as well if that's sufficiently answered. Okay, I will move on. Another question, it's a great question, and Dan already touched on a collaboration, is are there other organizations or perhaps like community groups that we collaborate with frequently, and who are they?
I'm going to jump in on that one. We do work a lot with other community partners. One of that we're working with right now for King County is with the South King County Discipline Coalition, holding listening sessions throughout the county and various school districts to help address the school policies and their impact on students of color, and really pushing the schools and the districts and the school boards to change those policies to be more geared towards and accepting of the students and understanding of what they're going through. Most recently, we had the discussion in regards to the SROs in the Kent School District. So there's a lot of work that's going on there with South King County Discipline Coalition. We also work with like for us in King County with like community passageways. When you have a youth that is dealing with incarceration, the potential of incarceration and going through the court proceedings, and community passageways gets involved. And then we get involved with that as well to try to help create a strategy and a plan for that youth to be released from detention and properly supported to prevent them from actually going to JR. So that's another community partnership and collaboration. But we also have other areas that we all partner with in just meeting with the communities and being involved in community and the work that they're doing. So those are just kind of some of the examples that are taking place in King County. I know that there's a lot of other community partners that are going on around the state as well. I'm going to ping it to Teresa because I know there's some stuff going on in Yakima.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of organizations that we partner with. I know, like, for me, I'm a newer attorney, so I've really enjoyed that I can reach out to someone from Northwest Justice Project or LCYC. Northwest Immigrant Rights Project has been a cool partnership. I'm working with them on a special immigrant juvenile status case right now, which has been pretty exciting. Rod's House is also doing a lot of good work. They have a winter shelter for youth experiencing homelessness, and they just opened up a new one in Sunnyside that's a 30-day shelter. So there's a lot of different organizations that I've been able to lean on and just seek out counsel from. So that's been helpful and a source of mutual referrals.
Does the Pierce team or the Spokane team want to call out any specific partnerships, or Sarah from other legal partnerships, legal aid organization partnerships?
In Pierce, we work with a lot of local youth serving organizations. So I could name a lot. Oasis Youth Center, which is our LGBTQ youth center in Tacoma. We have Reach Center, which is our local like one-stop shop for young people where they can get assistance with like employment, GED, housing, different things. In Pierce County, we're also a part of the core team of the Anchor Community Initiative. So we're involved in ending youth homelessness in our community. And I guess I would also add that I'm also a part of a coalition with different youth serving legal aid organizations. So LCYC, CLS, ACLU, and CCYJ, where we're all working together regarding 6560, which is addressing young people not exiting state systems of care into homelessness. And so we all come together to make sure that we're not like duplicating work, to bounce ideas off of each other and to see what each partner organization is doing, since we all do very different things, where we have, you know, some organizations that provide direct representation, others that do maybe high level litigation or just policy work. And so we all do different things and like to collaborate and just to try to address the issue for all young people across the state.
I would say Spokane is somewhat similar to what Kim just mentioned, in that Spokane is also an anchor community. So we have been working through that, as well as with Volunteers of America, who is the biggest provider for youth homelessness services in Spokane, and work with their various teams and have an MOU to provide the kind of representation that we do in order to resolve legal barriers to housing for youth that they are connecting with at both the youth shelter and the young adult shelters, and that they're connecting with out on the streets through their outreach as well. So I'd say in addition to that Every Student Counts community group that I discussed earlier, that work with Volunteers of America is one of our biggest partnerships in Spokane.
I think folks have covered it. I don't, I mean, I think this is just work we value. Partnering with communities, the JR team, I just want to say, has been pretty overloaded with the capacity, but since we've been able to grow that project, we're excited to connect more with communities who have been impacted by incarceration and help design some of the work that we're doing. And also, as JR DCYF is growing their reentry resources, partnering with community-based organizations to meet and connect with youth while they're incarcerated to bridge that support when they get released. So there's a lot of growth in that area for that particular team. But I would just say overall at TeamChild, I mean, we could list so many more organizations, and I know we left some out. It's just we do this work in partnership at every step.
Thank you all. I'll do one last question, and then we have a question for Jazzmine. So the final question is something that I think you all have addressed, that you've touched on a little bit, which is, how do you handle secondhand trauma? How do we do that as an organization, and how to try to achieve work-life balance? I have heard you all talk about the $1,000 wellness benefit that we typically get each year, as well as a level of flexibility in work hours when that is really needed. Are there any other things that you all want to call out? And I will just say it's something that is a constant work in progress. And so I wonder if there's anything else you want to add to the responses that you've shared, as what that also included just real relationship with one another.
I would say recognizing when you are being triggered and knowing yourself, knowing when you need to take a break and to step away, establishing clear boundaries, like not having your phone on 24 hours a day, taking a lunch, like we can take a lunch, it will be okay. And doing fun things, just living your life and doing fun things and recharging and yeah, enjoying yourself and knowing that it will be okay and the work will still be there, but knowing that the better that you are, the better that you can serve your clients and your community.
I will call out one of the things that we have done historically, and we're looking at getting it back up and running since COVID, things kind of went awry. Is for, as a woman of color, a Black woman, one of the things that we have done historically in recent years is caucusing, and having our POC caucus and the white caucus. And that helps a lot because you're able to come together collectively, share your experiences and support each other through those experiences. And so I would say that the caucusing for us has been a big thing. And then not only has it afforded us the opportunity to develop our relationships and support one another, but it's also worked in the way in which it's like Raina mentioned earlier, was her position was elevated to the director level, which then allowed us to feel that there was more equity in the decisions that were being made at the executive director level or at the ET executive team level. And so I would have to say that really to help with that work-life balance and ensuring that we are prioritizing our mental health among doing this work is through those things like the caucusing.
Thank you. I'll mention one last thing is that we're also trying to do that through a staff-driven process to update our paid leave benefits. So I'm going to turn it over in the last few minutes to Jazzmine. Jazzmine, what do you find, or what did you find most unique, powerful, or helpful in working with TeamChild? Or if you don't like that question, is there anything else that you want to share about working with TeamChild?
No, it's not that I don't like it, because I totally read it like 10 times and I just kind of think of an answer. But just going off the top of the dome here. Honestly, I think we kind of touched on it during our little meeting prior to this when we were setting up. The thing I found the most helpful, and I think I kept mentioning it, so for the panel, the people listening, the attorneys that worked with me, so Mr. Dan the man, and Rosie, they dealt with my uncomfortable situations. So when like Kim was talking about, oh, like something new, it's always something. There's always something and something, oh, I've never dealt with that before. But like the attorneys never, like, they never let me see them sweat. I'm already sweating. I don't need you sweating. How you gonna represent me if you sweat? Kind of thing. To where like the way Dan and Rosie always handled my stuff, it was just, it made me feel good, kind of thing, that they weren't surprised at it when like I came with some crazy situation, when I'm calling Rosie at 6 o'clock in the morning, like, hey, yeah, so I was kidnapped last night and now I'm in jail and I need you to come to court. It wasn't like, hold on, what? It was, okay, hold on, why are you on a U.S. Marshal hold when you're going to school? They can find, like, it was, they never blinked. It wasn't, nothing was uncomfortable for them. Even if they were uncomfortable, I never felt it. I just felt like, okay, they care about me, they care about my rights, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep fighting. And that's honestly, out of everything, I think that was the most helpful. And that's what helped me as a person be able to start talking up for myself, because I saw other people do it and without like blinking an eye. And that was the most helpful thing for me with TeamChild.
Jazzmine and all, thank you so much for moderating this, Jazzmine, and also the panelists for sharing your experiences working with TeamChild. We hope that this was edifying for those of you who participated. Thank you for your questions. There's a couple that we didn't get to, and as I said, we'll provide responses to that when we share out this recording. Again, please visit our website, teamchild.org, to learn more about the positions and how to apply. And we really hope that some of you who are here are our next coworkers in this work. So thank you all. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.